Alrighty, so welcome everyone and thank you for joining. My name's Aaron, I work for the 8x8 University team, and today we're here to go through the supervisor functions on the virtual contact center. A few things to go through before we get started with the session for today. It will heavily be a live demonstration, so I'll be jumping on and showing you how to navigate all your supervisor tools within the contact center. If you do have any questions at any time, please feel free to drop them in the chat, or you can unmute your microphone and ask a question. What you'll find though, throughout each topic, I'll ask the floor for some questions. If we have no questions, then we'll just move on. But again, please don't hesitate to ask a question, even if it's something that we're about to get into or it's something that we've already covered. So in terms of today's agenda, what we're going to be looking at first is our monitoring within the contact center. So we'll show you how to monitor your agents in terms of their activity, their statuses throughout the day. We'll also look at queue status monitoring, so looking at the performance throughout the day of the queue within the real-time last 30-minute and from the beginning of the day. Within that also, we'll show you how to listen to and download call recordings on the contact center that are coming from your queues or from your agents, and also we'll show you how to view the transcripts of chats from either internal or external. Finally, within our monitoring, we will look at live monitoring of calls. So this is where you have the flexibility of being able to listen in on your live agents' calls. You'll be able to whisper to them, and also you'll be able to join in on their calls as well. Moving on from monitoring, then we'll jump into our speech analytics. So this is where we'll show you how to run speech topics, create your phrases and categories, how to view those interactions when they match to some of your phrases, and also how to annotate the speech transcripts. Within our speech analytics, we also have the quality management platform where we'll show you how to search the call recordings, how to save some of your searches, how to listen to, review, and evaluate your recordings, as well as searching completed evaluations, and then finally showing you how to run reports on those evaluated calls. Finally, then we'll jump into our customer experience platform where we'll show you our call reports with the detailed call flows. So looking at where you can dissect individual calls coming into your contact center and analyzing all the pathways that your customers are taking from start point to end point. We'll then look at our IVR metrics. So this will specifically look at the IVR. You can see when your customers are hanging up in the IVR. You can see all the options that they're pressing, and then you can analyze that data into a PDF, or you can then use your filters to generate more granular data as well. In conjunction with our IVR metrics, we will look at our dominant paths taken by customers. So this will show you an outline of the top 10 choices coming into your contact center based on your filters, and then you can analyze some trends that are coming through your contact center. So that is essentially our agenda for today's session. The first thing that we will kick off with, though, is our monitoring. Now, as I said, this is heavily going to be a live demonstration, so I'm going to be jumping out of the presentation here, and let's jump into our contact center platform. What you'll find is that most, if not all, of your supervisor tools are actually within your agent console. So as a supervisor, you will also be an agent as well. So most of you, if not all of you, have been on an agent session, a contact center agent session. So we actually follow the same steps to access our supervisor functions as we did logging into the contact center as an agent. So within our browser here, Chrome browser, this is my preferred. I can at the top here type in the login.8x8.com. When we are prompted for our username and password, on your system, you'll be using the single sign-on. So you'll just click on this here, type in your email address and select continue. On my system, I'm just going to be using a username and password. So if I just log in here, you'll see in just a moment, the application panel will populate. And then within the application panel, we'll just need to click on the virtual contact center agent. So just log in here again. There we go. So here's our application panel. To navigate through to our monitoring, all we need to do is click on the virtual contact center agent here. Upon logging in, you'll see that your state will put you in a break. So to access and navigate through to your monitoring tool or function, you'll first need to put yourself into either work offline or available. So for this case, I'm just going to be putting myself into work offline, and now you'll see at the top we have availability to select the menu drop down. This here is where we'll navigate through to our monitoring. So all we need to do is click on the drop-down menu, and then you'll see below here we have our monitoring. So this is how we would access the monitoring, so we can look at our queues, our agents, as well as listening back to and downloading call recordings and viewing transcripts of chats. What you'll find when you launch into your monitoring, you'll see on your right-hand tab here, you will see the monitoring window will populate. And below here, we have some selective tabs, which be relevant to the type of data and stats that we can source. So the first tab that we're going to be looking at is our queue management. Now within queue management, this is where you'll be able to see the queues that you supervise. You can look at metrics and statistics based on real time, the last 30 minutes, and from the beginning of the day. If we look at real time first, below here, you can see the queues that I'm supervising. So within the inbound phone queues, I'm supervising customer services 1, as well as customer services 2, and also the outbound campaign. Within here, I can see on the right-hand side our service level agreements. I can see the current activity, and I can also see our targets. Now, the SLA, or the service level agreement, is something that is set up on the admin portal. Now, I can show you this at the end of the session because for some of you, we will be going through onto the admin console and showing you the queue priority. So I can also show you where you can set the SLA on your queue. And how our SLA is determined is the percentage of calls answered within a certain amount of minutes, seconds, or hours. So here you would see the current activity in a percentage, you would see your targets, and then over here on the service level weight limit, that would be the weight limit that you have designed and set up on the queue. Next to our SLA, we can see busy. So this will tell us how many of our team are currently busy or on the phone handling interactions in that queue. We have waiting. So this will tell us how many callers are currently waiting in the queue. We have longest waiting, which will tell us the current longest waiting caller in our queue. Again, our service level weight limit, as I said, works in conjunction with the SLA setup. And then on the right-hand side here, we have average processing, which will refer to average talk time. And then we have enabled agents. Within your enabled agents here on the right-hand side, below you will see 24 of 25 on my system. Now this tells me that I have 24 users enabled out of 25. When a user is enabled in the queue, that means they are taking interactions from that queue. So there are 25 users who are actually assigned in the queue. However, only 24 of those are taking calls. So as a supervisor, you can actually go through and click on this number here. You will see a panel which will populate below. And within here, this is where you'll be able to see inside that queue in regards to the users who are enabled. You'll be able to see their skill level, their current status, and their time on status. So we can see here that student 10 is currently not enabled. So that means he's not currently taking calls from the queue. However, I can turn and tick this at any time. So then student 10 would start to receive interactions. The reason why we have this here is because with an administrator, when they create a user and they allocate them into a queue, and I'm going to show you what this looks like at the end of the session, and I'll reference back to this here, this exact moment and this exact panel. When an administrator builds someone into a queue on the backend system, they either define whether they are assigned or they're assigned and enabled. Now, if a user is just assigned in the queue, and this is just a tick box that the administrators will set up on the contact center config manager, if they are just assigned in the queue, that means that supervisors can actually go in within the agent console and enable them at any time. They will now be available in their queue to select on the fly. If they are not assigned in the queue, then an administrator is the only person that can actually go in and assign them. If a user is assigned and enabled, then you will see here that they will be ticked, and that means that they are taking calls from the queue. You as supervisors will have that ability on the fly to enable people in and out of your queue to assist with different influxes of calls. For example, let's say that my core team in Customer Services 1 are the users here who are ticked. So that would be 23 of 25. The remaining 2 users in this queue are just assigned. Now, these are just additional resources if we have short headcount. So at any time, if for instance I have two people off, then I can go in, I can inform those two users, hey, look, I've got lack of headcount today. Can you assist with calls? And if they obviously agree, then I can go in and enable them at any time on the fly. I do not have to go to an administrator to get them to assign them. If they are already assigned, then you have that flexibility to enable them here. On the right-hand side, we have their skill level within that queue, and this is something that can be created and set up on the admin portal. So we'll show you what that looks like at the end of the session. So for example, if you have a new starter in the business, you may want to put them at a lower skill level, and that will just reflect on the amount of calls that they will receive. For example, if you have two users on an 80 skill level and one user on a 20 skill level, then the users who are on 80 will receive all of the interactions first, and then it will go over and prioritize to the user who is on 20 based on the amount of interactions the people on 80 have received. For example, if the person on 80 and the person on 20 are the only people free, and the person on 80 has already taken 5 calls today, and the user on 20 has taken 0, then it will go on to the user who's 20 and then back to the user who's 80. So it will just differentiate the amount of calls and influxes that will come through to those users. On the right hand side here, we have current status. So this will tell you their active status in the queues as well as their contact center. So you can see here, student 1 is currently working offline and they've been on that status for 6 minutes and 44 seconds. And then finally here, we have our active queues. So you can see here 3 of 3. So this means that there are 3 assigned queues and they are enabled in all 3. So that is essentially on the fly how we would enable people in and out of our queues if they are already assigned, and also how we would view some of their skill levels and their current status. Moving on to the last 30 minutes now, this is where you'll see statistics within your queue within the last 30 minutes. So we can see how many calls entered the queue, how many calls have been accepted, how many calls have been abandoned. So this is where your customers are hanging up in the queue if they're waiting for too long. We have average wait time. So this is telling you how long your customers are waiting to be answered via your agents within the last 30 minutes. And then finally, we have average processing, which refers to average talk time, and then our service level agreement activity and target within the last 30 minutes. From the beginning of the day now, we'll give you the exact same metrics at the top here. However, it will look from the beginning of that scheduled day. So for example, we can see here customer services 1 and 2. We currently have 0 interactions that have come through the queues today. So obviously they are reflecting here. Now, the usefulness of having this here is just basically on the fly, you can see the performance of your queues throughout the day. If you're looking to generate these into a report, then you can go to the menu and select our report, and then you'll be able to go through and find relevant statistics. If you're looking for that in a CSV format or Excel, then you'll be able to generate it through our reporting. Within the monitoring tab, really, it's just for on-the-fly view of the performance within your queues based on your granular settings here. So that is essentially our queue management tab. Any questions in regards to the first tab? Fantastic. Now, with our campaign management, I believe this is not something you will be using purely on the basis as you're not using our local CRM system. Is that correct, Lindsay? I believe you're not using the local CRM.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so what campaign management is, though, it's essentially an automatic dialing campaign that works with your CRM or the local CRM on our system, and you can populate records of customer details, and then it will automatically dial out using the agents in the outbound queues, and then the outbound agents will then detail what that call was about. So this really only works with our local CRM, though, so we won't be going through that today. Moving on to agent management. So this is where you'll be able to view the statistics of your individual agents based on your granular periods here. So for example, we have our real-time first, and below here we can firstly filter via users who are logged in. So if I select this here, you will see we have student 1 who's currently working offline. On your system, you will be able to see the status code. So you'll be able to see what status code they are using when they're selecting work offline or take a break. You'll also be able to see their time on status here, if their phone line 1 or 2 is currently in progress, their active queues, their last login time, their total time of being logged in, total time of transactions, and then finally you'll see their max concurrency of chats, which is how many chats they can have in progress at one time, and then their active customer chats. Now, this here is actually an incredibly useful part of the monitoring, because in this current climate, I'm sure some of you, or some of your agents, probably some working from home, maybe in the office as well, you do not have that full flexibility of being able to see everyone in the contact center in the office. So here is actually where you can track their activity throughout the day. So making sure that they are logged in at the right time, and also you can see here their total time of being logged in, and then also their total time of transactions for the day as well, based on their login time. So really useful there to be able to just track on the fly the activity, as well as the login time and the transaction activity for your users. If we look at last 30 minutes now, this is where you'll see statistics on your individual users in the last 30 minutes. So we can see student 1 here has accepted 0 calls, rejected 0. Their average talk time is reflecting 0 as well. And then finally, on the right-hand side here, we have a time on status graph. Now, this here will actually break down the last 30 minutes, and it will show you all the statuses they've used within the last 30-minute period. So we can see here, if you just hover over the color, it will tell you exactly what status they've been on for how long for as well. So we can see here that student 1 has been available, otherwise known as waiting, for 1.7 minutes, and you see that is slowly climbing. They've been working offline for 10.1 minutes, and then the final part of that out of the 30 minutes, which would be roughly around 18 minutes or so, they have been logged out. So this will slowly start creeping, and based on the 30-minute period, and then obviously once they've been logged in for 30 minutes, you will see this as a full breakdown in terms of the statuses they've used within that 30-minute period. If we look at from the beginning of the day now, this is where you'll see statistics on those individual users based on their login time for that day. So we can see here student 1, you can see their accepted, rejected, and average talk time. And then you'll see on the right-hand side here, we have total time being logged in, and then time on status percentage. Now this here is very useful, because this actually breaks down their login time and shows you all of the statuses that they've used within that time. So you just hover over the color, and it will tell you what percent they've used based on that login time here. So within a 30-minute period, you can see that the student 1 has been available for 46% of that time, and then the remaining time they've been working offline. Moving on to monitor now, this is where essentially you'll be able to live monitor your agents, as well as log out your agents from the contact center. You will see some additional statistics on those users here. You can also filter via users who are logged in. So if we select this here, you can see student 3 currently available. You can see student 3 has probably left themselves logged in overnight. And as you can see, 19 hours. You can see if their phone line 1 or 2 is currently in progress, their max concurrency of chats and active customer chats, their longest active chat duration, and then finally on the action tab on the right-hand side here, this is where you can begin the monitoring. To monitor one of your agents, all you have to do is click on the eye icon here. When I click this eye, you will see now the eye is highlighted in blue. So this tells me that I'm actively live monitoring this user. With our monitoring, if you are actively monitoring a user, your phone will ring on any interaction they make or receive. So if their phone rings 100 times throughout the day, your phone will also ring 100 times. When their phone rings, your phone will ring as well. And on your contact center status at the top, it will tell you what type of interaction you're receiving. So if it's a monitored call, it will say monitored call offered. If it's a customer call, it will say customer call offered. And if it's an internal call, it will say agent call offered. So you'll be able to decipher prior to picking up your phone what type of interaction that is. Now, whilst you are live monitoring one of your agents, you will have some tools within that. So you can obviously start an agent whisper. So this lets you communicate one way to the colleague or the agent that you're monitoring. You can also join the call. So if the customer is obviously looking to escalate and the agent can't handle the call and you're listening in, then you can join in the call at any time. Now, one thing to note is that with our monitoring, this does not play a monitor tone to the agent. And the reason why we do not play a monitor tone on our system is because if you're monitoring someone for training purposes, so let's say that student 3 here is new to the business and new to our team, and I need to listen in to just take down some notes so I can give obviously advice and just to see if following the processes initially is correct on his side. So what I can do is I can just notify him. So I can say, look, and this is probably what you are going to be doing. You're going to probably just drop them a call or let them know in the office, say, hey, look, I'm going to be listening into your calls today. If you do need any assistance, I'll be here. If you hear my voice on the call, please do not respond to me. Otherwise, the customer will be slightly confused in regards to who else is on the call, because it is only one-way communication. You will be able to hear your agents if they were to talk back to you and obviously answer your question, or if there's anything that you mentioned in terms of the training that you're giving. However, the customer will have no clue and they wouldn't be able to hear you. So it is sort of just a best practice to make sure that if you are monitoring someone for training reasons, just let them know that you're going to be listening in on the call, and then they can obviously take down what type of training that you give or whisper to them over the phone. The other type of monitoring that you probably will be doing is performance training, or either if it's performance issues that have been raised. So let's say that you have, or student 3 here, it hasn't been handling calls properly. You've had reports from your internal colleagues as well as customers that they haven't been handling calls appropriately. So it's your job as a supervisor to listen into their calls. Now, if the system was to play a monitor tone to student 3, do you think you would get a true reflection of how student 3 has been handling calls? Probably not. So if you are monitoring someone for training reasons, then you're most likely going to be advising them. If you're monitoring them for performance reasons, then that's why we do not play the monitor tone. That is really the main reason, purely because you wouldn't get a true reflection of how they handle calls. I do know that we are looking to implement the ability to turn on or off an agent sort of an agent monitoring tone, so then they can obviously hear that. But that is something that is still in the roadmap, and there's sort of no set time on when that will come through. But that is something that has been talked about being implemented within our contact center. Now, if you're looking to conclude the monitoring, then all you simply have to do is, if you have this panel up, you can select Finish Monitoring, or you can simply just deselect the eye here, and then that will turn off the monitoring, and now you can manage your calls, whether it's internal or external. Anytime that you go into your agent monitoring and then you see that the eye is highlighted, that means that you're actively monitoring this user. Additionally, with your action button here, you'll see we have the ability to log someone out. So in the unlikely event someone was to keep themselves logged in, so you can see student 3 here has left themselves logged in for 19 hours and 11 minutes. This here is probably where I'd want to log them out. So all I simply have to do is click on this logout button next to the eye, and that would log them out of the contact center. So that wouldn't cause any discrepancies on my team statistics as well as their individual statistics. So that is essentially our agent management tab. Remember, if you're looking for activity statistics, use your real-time last 30-minute and from the beginning of the day tabs here. And if you are looking to live monitor your agents or log them out of the contact center, you will utilize the monitor tab here. Any questions in regards to our agent management? Fantastic. Moving on now to playback. So really straightforward here. This is where you're going to be able to listen to and download your call recordings. Also viewing the transcripts and downloading the transcripts of chats, whether it's internal or external. So external being the web chats, live chat, and internal being the agent to agents. First things first though, when we click on our phone tab, so this is showing us call recordings, on the right hand side here, you will have a filter. So within here, you can filter via the queues, via the agents or the channels. So if you're looking for individual calls from a single user, then you can use your filters appropriately. And then below here, we have an advanced search. So this is where you can be a bit more granular with the type of filters that you're applying to find a recording. So you can find a recording via the transaction ID, via the contact, so this is the customer's number, the start date, and also the duration. Based on your filter, as well as your advanced search, you will see your call recordings below. Now, really straightforward here, all you have to do to listen back to recording is click on the recording, and then below here, you will see your playback wave. Now, simply all you have to do to listen back to this call is click play, and you'll see momentarily that we'll find that the playback wave will populate. You can flick through the call at any time and find a specific part of the call, and then you can also download the call recording. When you select download, that will download into your local computer, so then you can source that out via email, or if you can upload that to your internal SharePoints, if it's a training call, etc., that will initially lie on your local PC, and then you can upload that accordingly. On the right hand side here, you will see some additional playback info. So just giving you the transaction information on the call here, if you need to detail that down. And then once you're finished listening back to that call, you can simply click on the X. So that is essentially how we would listen to and download our call recordings. Simply click on the call recording which is relevant, click play, or click download. Now, your call recordings will be stored here based on the retention period. So it could be 30 days, it could be 40 days, it could be 90 days. Lindsay, I believe you do have that information, don't you?
Yeah, it's 400 days. It will actually,
400 days.
yeah,
Okay,
it actually be
fantastic.
kept on here.
Yep.
However, they will then a further 2 years will be stored offline, and the guys will just have to raise a support call if they want, obviously, anything over 400 days.
Yeah, fantastic. That's perfect. 400 days is definitely ample amount of time. So that's a good. You're going to have all of your recordings here to track back for any training purposes, or if there's any escalations that happen historically, you will have all of the call recordings stored just here, and also for your quality management and the speech analytics. The longer your retention is, the longer time that you can listen back to those calls where your customers may have matched to some of your phrases, and also for your evaluations. Moving on now to our chat tab. So this is where you'll be able to view and download the transcripts of chats. So firstly, we can use our filter. So this is the same filter that we saw before. So via specific queues, the chat queues, individual agents and channels. And then we also have the advanced search drop down below here. Based on your filter and based on your advanced search, you will see the transcripts of chats here. You'll be able to identify the type of chat via here. So you'll see internal or external. And then all you simply have to do is click on a chat, and then you'll see the chat transcript below. So if I bring up another chat here, you'll see below here, we've got all of the chat history between these two internal colleagues, student 1 and student 3. We can find a specific word on the right hand side here. We'll see the transaction details, and we can also download the chat, which will download into a text file. So that is essentially our playback tab. Really straightforward here. All you have to do is simply utilize your filters and your advanced search. If it is a chat, then just simply select the chat and you'll be able to view the transcript all here, or you can download. If it's a phone call, then again, use your filters and your advanced search. And then based on the recording, you simply just click on the relevant recording, and then you can play, you can skip through the call, or you can download. Any questions in regards to the playback? Perfect. Finally, our setup tab will just give you a high-level overview of the groups, queues, and campaigns that you're currently supervising. Now, you will find that you probably will not have to change anything within here. Your administrators will set you up to your probably core teams, but this here is essentially where you'll just have that visibility to see what type of groups and queues that you are currently supervising. If you find that you can't see the call recordings for your team, then just simply click on the setup and just to confirm that you have been enabled to your queue. And if not, it may just be sitting as deselected. So you can simply just select that to now see the call recordings as well as the agent and queue stats. One thing that is beneficial with this, though, is let's say that you have a counterpart supervisor who's working in another team, and let's say that they were on holiday or they're on leave or off sick. It's your duty when they're off to manage their team as well, additionally, but you only supervise their team when obviously the normal supervisor is off. So within here, this is where you can turn yourself on and off to supervise that specific queue. So when, for instance, that supervisor is off, then you can go in and just enable yourself, and then you'll be able to manage and supervise their team and see their statistics. When they return back in the office, then you can just deselect yourself, and then you'll be just managing your core team. So that is essentially our monitoring function. So just to recap, we looked at queue management. So this is where you'll be able to see statistics on the queues that you supervise based on real time, last 30 minutes, and from the beginning of the day. Also within real time on the right-hand side here, enabled agents. This is where you can enable your staff on the fly within your queues. We looked at agent management. So this is where we can again see the statistics on our individual users from real time, last 30 minutes from the beginning of the day, and we'll also be able to live monitor our agents as well as log them out. And then finally, we looked at our playback and our setup. So within playback, again, using your different filters here and also your advanced search, you'll find your relevant recordings and the chats. And then the setup here is just the high level overview of the groups, queues, or campaigns that you supervise. What we're going to be jumping into now is we're going to jump into our speech analytics and our quality management. Now, the speech analytics and the quality management can be found from your application panel. So if I go back to my 8x8 applications, you will see here within my application panel, on the right-hand side, you will see speech analytics and QM. So all I need to do is click on this application or widget within the app panel, and then you'll see momentarily the application panel or the quality management, sorry, will launch in a new tab. Upon logging into your quality management and your speech analytics, what you'll find here is your dashboard view. Now, this dashboard view will basically give statistics and evaluations to your end users. So predominantly, you will find that the end users will see information within here. Only unless you are getting your calls evaluated as well, will you see your own evaluations here. Because when an end user has a call evaluated, so if a supervisor like yourselves goes in and evaluates one of their calls, they will also have quality management within their application panel. However, when they click on quality management, because they are not a supervisor, they will only see a dashboard view, and also they may have the ability to search their own interactions. So within this dashboard view, they will see all of their existing evaluations that have been obviously done from supervisors, and then they'll be able to listen back to their call and see the scoring templates and the reports. Now, as a supervisor, if you do not have your calls evaluated on yourself, then your dashboard should just always show as no dashboard available. Moving on to our speech center below here. So this here is basically our speech analytics. So this is where you'll be able to create all your categories. You'll be able to view all your topics and also create your phrases. And then you'll be able to find all your interactions that match to some of your phrases and topics that you've added in to your specific speech center. Moving on now, we have our searching of interactions. So this here is where you'll be able to create your own tabs and your filters. And then based on your call recordings, which you'll see here, you'll be able to begin evaluating these calls. I'll show you exactly how we would evaluate and also how we would view and find our filters when we get to this tab. But here is also where you'll have a full list of all of your recordings, which will base on your 400-day retention. Below, we have our searching of evaluations. So this here will show you an overview of, based on your saved tabs, of your users who have been evaluated, and you'll see all of their scores for all of their calls for this year, this month, week, etc., based on your filters. You'll be able to export this as well, so exporting into CSV format if you're looking for a breakdown of all of the statistics and evaluations for that user, or if you're looking for something a little bit more granular and more specific, you can then generate some reports. So within our reports tab, this is where you can view evaluation summaries, average quality scores, quality scoring trends, and then within the speech analytics, you can run reports on speech topic matched as well as speech topic trends. So what we're going to be doing first is we're going to be jumping into our speech center. Now, with our speech center, this is essentially the speech analytics. Now, I'm going to give you a breakdown and a deeper understanding of how this can be used and the true sort of potential of how this can improve your contact center on a day-to-day, monthly, or weekly basis. So I'm going to be using, David, I'm going to be just using you as an example here. Let's say, David, that you manage a customer support team. Now, at the end of each month, David, your job is to analyze how many calls where your customers are not happy with the service, or they are satisfied with the service, or maybe they want to talk about refunds, or they're not happy overall with pricing, etc. Now, it's your job to go through and find those specific calls. Now, instead of going through needles in a haystack or going through and off vague information given by your agents, what you can do within the speech center is you can create categories and topics, and based on those topics, you can have certain phrases that you want the system to detect. Every single call that comes through your team, David, the speech analytics will transcribe to text. So what the system will do is it will scan every single transcription of text on the contact center from your cues. And then as soon as it matches to one of your phrases that you've added in to your topic, it will then pull that call and bring it and sit it within your folder of that topic. So at the end of the month, at the end of the week, end of the day, you can go into that topic and you can see if there's any new matches of calls to your specific phrases. So, for example, David, one phrase that you want the system to detect on is speak to a manager or manager callback. That is the keyword phrase that you're looking to detect, because this here would sit under caller dissatisfaction topic because the customers are not happy. They want to speak to a manager. Now, the system will run through every single call. As soon as it detects that phrase, speak to a manager or manager callback, it will pull that call and bring it and allocate it within your list of interactions. So at the end of the month, you'll be able to see, okay, we've got 4 calls where customers have mentioned manager callback. So then you do not have to go through a needle in a haystack anymore. You can literally go through to that topic and then find those calls and listen to them back on the fly. On the other side, if it's caller satisfaction, that's a topic that you've created. You can have keywords like thank you very much, or fantastic, or great help. When the system scans through and detects one of those phrases, it will then bring that call and list it in that topic. So then you can go through within that topic at the end of the month and you can compare, okay, we've got 10 calls where our customers are satisfied and we've only had 2 calls where customers are not happy. So again, that ratio is not too bad, but maybe we want to get that down to 0 for the caller dissatisfaction. So you can analyze the different trends. You may find that within the month of July, you may have had staff who are off sick, maybe for COVID reasons, etc. And then you had a more influx and spike of calls where customers were dissatisfied. Then you can join the dots. You can analyze your contact center service and say, well, yes, we had dissatisfied service, but we had a lack of headcount, so which meant on longer wait times for customers, etc. So you can analyze the trends not only from a speech center view, but from a deeper level within your contact center. So that is just an example of the capabilities and sort of the powerfulness of using the speech center. Let's go ahead and show you how to build and set up our categories, our topics, and our phrases. So what you'll find in your center screen here, you can see how we've got different chunks within our center. Now, I like to call this the beehive. Within our beehive, you can see here, we've got certain categories which are larger than others. Now, the categories really will detail the team or departments. So if David works in customer support, then David might want to put here as a category, customer support. And the categories will sit on the front screen here. Within a category, you will have your topics. So as I mentioned before, the topics would be caller satisfaction, caller dissatisfaction, or refunds and pricing. So these are certain topics that you've added into that category. And then within topics, you have your phrases. So on the left-hand side, we do have a list view. So you can see here, if we scroll down, we can see all of the categories that are within this view here. So if we look at our contact center CS team, so this is contact center customer support, and this here will sit somewhere within our category view. Now yours will not look this busy. Purely mine looks this busy because obviously this is my training system. What you will find is that you will probably have a fresh canvas of your categories. However, there will be some sample categories that will add in when you first go into your system. But we'll show you in just a moment how you can create categories in this view as well as your topics. So as you can see here, we've got Contact Center CS. Now you'll find here on the left-hand side, if we click on this drop down, we can see how we have two topics within. One of the topics that we have is complaints. And then within complaints, we have 4 phrases. So if we click the drop down again, you can see these are the phrases that we want the system to detect. So at the end of the month, David can go into his speech center and look inside the actual topic itself and then see if there's been any calls where the contact center and the speech center has detected these phrases. If we look at another one, for example, if we scroll down and look at this one here, inbound call team, we can see we've got one topic, which is caller dissatisfaction, and then we've got 3 phrases here. So complaint raise, not happy, or unhappy with service. Again, the system would automatically try and detect when the phrases have been mentioned and then pull them into the list of interactions. What you will find is that your categories will actually start to grow in size based on the amount of interactions that are detected. So let's say David goes in 1 month and his category is this big. 2 months down the line, David goes back into the speech center and that same category is now this big. Fast forward another month, his category is this big. So you'll find that your category will start to expand based on the amount of interactions that have been detected. Now within a category, we have our topics. And as I mentioned before, those topics could be caller dissatisfaction, caller dissatisfaction, refunds and pricing, for example. Now, what you can do is within a category, you can double click on the category. And then what you'll find is that within your category, you will see now all of your topics that you created. And you will find that this will follow the same theme. So based on the largest topic within this category, that tells you that there's been more interactions matched to the other topics. So let's say that David goes into the speech analytics or speech center, and 1 month, one of the topics, so let's say this is caller dissatisfaction. 1 month, the caller dissatisfaction is this big. The next month, David goes in and it's this big. So David visually can already see that there's been more calls that have detected to the phrases within that topic. So really, really useful there. You can visually see just by going into the speech center if there has been any new detections. And then all you have to do to listen back to the calls or find the calls is click on the topic and select go to interactions. And this will literally jump straight into your recordings, and this will show you every single call where it has detected to your category and the topics. And within those topics, it will go through and pinpoint exactly where the phrase has been mentioned. So if I use this call as an example, you will see on the right-hand panel here, you will have the speech and transcript. So below here, you will have all of the transcript of the call. And then on the right-hand side here, these are your topics that have been detected within the transcript. So simply, all you have to do is click on a topic and it will jump straight to your phrase that you added. So you do not have to scan through the call and play it back and listen to a 15-minute call. You can literally just scan and hit straight on your topic, and then it will pinpoint exactly where your phrase was mentioned. Now on your system, your retention will be available. On my system, the retention has passed, but I'll show you in just a moment what this little playback looks like, because there is some additional features that we can do within the timeline view. But this is basically just a playback. So you click on play and you can listen back to the call. However, for this demonstration, we are just going to be showing you the speech and transcript. So as you can see here, we can pinpoint exactly on the call where our phrases have been detected. And then you can go back to your speech center, and then now you can look at another topic and find other calls. So if you're looking at caller satisfaction just then, you can now go back into your speech center and then go through to caller dissatisfaction, and then you can go to the interactions. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be showing you how to create categories. So a category to go into this forefront view. Then we're going to show you how to create a topic, and then we'll show you how to create some phrases within those topics. Now for this demonstration, I like to use someone from the audience or someone from the session, because it just gives you a bit more of a feel and sort of interactivity into the session. So can I use, how about we use David, since I was using you for the example.
Hello.
David, hi there, mate. What department do you supervise?
First contact.
First contact, was it?
Yeah.
First contact. Okay, fantastic. Now, the default topic channel here, David, this is basically what you want the system to detect. Is it the agent transcript? So are you looking to run phrases and topics on your individual agents to make sure they are saying a certain phrase? Like, are they offering customer surveys, etc.? So based on agent or caller, then that is what the system will detect. Now, the default topic channel will just mean that anytime that you create a topic and you file it underneath first contact, it will just automatically remember this saved setting. So what type of calls or what type of transcript are you looking at sort of analyzing? Is it from your agents or from the caller?
Would probably be agent, to be honest.
Okay, fantastic, no problem. So if I just hit save now, you will see on the left-hand side, our speech category list will start to refresh, and then you'll find that we have our first contact now within this category view. So what we want to do now, once we've added the category, we now want to add a topic within that category and also some phrases. So if we go to new again and we go topic, what type of topic in terms of your phrases are you looking to track on your agents?
Best access times. So yeah, access times.
Access
Well,
times.
site access times, actually.
Yep. And then the topic category, this is basically where you're going to be filing it under your newly created category. So this is where